I wanted to share a testimony. I've actually seen a lot of people healed of different kinds of mental health issues, depression, PTSD. I have a friend who has been healed of bipolar. I started out doing physical healing with people and of course working on the ambulance. I transport a lot of people who have depression and PTSD and mental health issues. And I was asking God, I'm like, look, there's got to be a way to heal these conditions. Can you help me out here? Give me some clues. What are we doing here? How do we get these people healed? So over the course of several years, I studied a lot of different approaches to emotional healing. I learned from a lot of people who had success, and then I kind of condensed the salient features, the key aspects of a lot of different approaches to emotional healing into an approach that I could use in the ambulance in 10 minutes. And I have successfully used this approach with a lot of different people. I want to share a testimony with you this morning. There's a man who has been following my website for a long time, and he knew all about what I was doing with healing. He has a son who used to work for a municipal fire department here in the Phoenix area, and he went out on a disability because he had PTSD. He'd been with the department for a long time and had been on a lot of very bad calls, seen a lot of dead people, seen a lot of horrible things like a lot of us do in this kind of work. And the flashbacks and the memories of all the horrible things he had seen over his career made it impossible for him to continue working. So he left the fire department, and he continued dealing with all of these traumatic memories. So his father called me and said, "Hey, can you get together with my son? He's a former paramedic firefighter, and can you do some emotional healing with him?" And I said, "Sure, let's do that." A fellow paramedic, right up my alley. So I met with him at a park over in Mesa, and we sat down, him and his father and I talked with him. And the process that I use is very simple. It is very effective, and it is very simple, and anyone can do it. You don't need any counseling. You don't need a degree in counseling. You don't need any kind of formal training to do this. You don't need anyone to help you. You can do it yourself, right? What I do with people that I've helped go through the emotional healing process is I explain the process to them. I give them a couple of examples. I walk them through it a couple of times, and then I tell them, look, this is something you can do yourself. You've got a lot of traumatic memories, traumatic events, a lot of emotions. You just walk through the process and get healed of them. And that's how the process works. So I generally have the person recall the most uncomfortable traumatic memory that they have. So I had this guy tell me about the worst call that he ever went on. He had recently, before he quit working as a paramedic, gone on a call where a person was smashed between a car and a tree. They were wedged between the car and the tree, and he got there, and this person was still alive, but he knew they were going to die very soon. And there wasn't really anything he can do. It was late at night. There was alcohol involved. It was a tragic call, and the person ended up dying. And he knew the person was going to die, and he knew there was nothing he could do about it. It is one of the very difficult things about being a paramedic is knowing that we've been trained, we have these skills, we can do things, but there are some people we can't help. He told me about this call that he went on, and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Tell me the emotion, the strongest emotion that you're feeling right now. So he told me the emotion that he was feeling, And I said this, all right, just repeat after me. Jesus, I ask you to take this emotion from me. And he said that. Ask Jesus to heal the wound in your soul. And he did that. And I said, okay, now tell him you receive his healing. And he did that. So I rehearsed this call again. You're going on the call, you're responding, it's late. You get there, there's this person, they're wedged between the car and the tree. What emotion do you feel now? He didn't have the same emotion, he had a different emotion. So he told me that one, and I said, okay, well, take that emotion and give it to Jesus. Just repeat after me. Jesus, I ask you to take this emotion from me. I ask you to heal the wound in my soul. I receive your healing. He did that, and then I said, okay, now let's recall this event again. And I rehearsed the event. There you are, you're in the ambulance, you're responding, it's late, there's a person wedged between a car and the tree, you can't help them, what emotion do you feel now? And he said, nothing. I don't feel anything. At all, no emotions, nothing negative. All of the negative emotions from that event that had been plaguing him were completely gone. So I said, okay, now let's do another one. So he told me about another call that he went on that was very traumatic. And I said, okay, I rehearsed the call with him, gave him the details, and I said, what emotion do you feel? He said, I feel this. I said, okay, well, here's a process. Repeat after me. Jesus, I ask you to take this emotion. I ask you to heal the wound in my soul, and I receive your healing. And he said that. And then I rehearsed the call with him again. I said, well, you're on this call, and here's what's going on, and gave him all the details. And I said, what do you feel? And he said, I don't feel anything. It's gone. It's completely gone. Right? We went through 3 or 4 more calls that he went on that had emotionally just wound him up. Traumatic calls where he felt guilt or anger or frustration, things that plagued him, and all of the emotions were completely gone, and all of them. And I explained to him, I said, look, this is a process that you can do yourself. And what you need to do the rest of your life is go through all the events of your life where you were neglected, abused, humiliated. He had some problems with with the fire department that he worked with. He was unfairly treated, he felt, by them. They fought his disability claim, and he had a lot of anger and a lot of frustration over that. And I helped him work through some of the anger and frustration just from the process of going through this, trying to get a disability. So I explained to him, look, you need to take these events, whether it's a divorce, a death of a parent, a death of a child, whatever it is, whatever traumatic events you have in your life. Go through these events, recall them one at a time, identify the emotion, give Jesus the emotion, ask him to heal the wound in your soul, tell him you receive his healing. And I have done this process with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, mostly by chat. I started doing this on Facebook. Yes, that's the link to the book, John 63, Emotional Healing in 3 Easy Steps. I have a book on Amazon. It's you can get the paperback book. It's a very thin book. You can read it in like 20 minutes. It's also available on Kindle, or you can just do I explain in the book a couple of testimonies, my own emotional healing, and the emotional healing of some other people. And that's explained in the book, and then I explain the process. And I have done this with hundreds of people, and I have never yet met a single person that it didn't work on. Not one. If the person is willing to go through the process, if they're willing to identify the emotions, if they're willing to give the emotions to Jesus and ask him to heal the wound in their soul, they always come away from that experience feeling better. And I have some really incredible testimonies from people who have been healed of PTSD and depression and a lot of other things by going through this process. And look, here's the biblical basis for it. Isaiah 53. He was wounded for our transgressions, right? He bore our griefs and sorrows. He was wounded for our transgressions. By his stripes we are healed, right? A lot of people who understand physical healing think, okay, well, he was, by his stripes we were healed. Well, they also they forget about the fact that it says he bore our griefs and sorrows. What are griefs and sorrows? Emotional. They're emotions, and it's related to emotional trauma. On the cross, Jesus took away the consequences of our emotional trauma. And if you're willing to give those emotions to him and let him heal the wound in your soul, he will heal you, and you will have such freedom like you've never had before. And like I said, I've done this process with hundreds of people, mostly do it over chat. I did it for years on Facebook over chat. I would just text with people, what are you feeling? What's the emotion? Give it to Jesus. Tell him you receive his healing. And people would always say, wow, it's amazing. I feel great. I don't feel sad. I don't feel angry. And whether it's childhood sexual abuse or, like I said, divorce or death of a family member, whatever it is, this process is extremely effective. And you can do it yourself. You don't need anyone to do it with you. You can just do it yourself. Wanted to share that testimony? Yes, for one memory. And sometimes a memory will only have one emotion. You'll feel anger or you'll feel shame or something, and then you'll go through that process and that emotion will be completely gone, and you'll feel okay. When you recall that memory, you'll have no negative emotions. When you feel no negative emotions related to an event, you've been healed. If you recall that event and there is still a negative emotion there, you're not healed yet completely. So identify the emotion you're feeling, give it to Jesus, ask him to heal the wound in your soul.